Hello freaks and welcome to yet another wonderful, magnificent Rag Reynolds tier list. Today we are doing a self-defense tier list using these different weapons and methods of self-defense. We're going to put them on the tier list in terms of what's the most effective, and not just what's most effective, but also what would be the most satisfying as well. We're going to factor that in a way as well. So obviously you will notice down here, well, maybe you won't because my camera obscures some of it, but you might notice down here there is no fists option. There is no just fists. And the reason for that is because we're doing this from my perspective. We're doing it from the perspective of Rag Reynolds. And legally, Rag Reynolds, my fists are a bit too deadly for any man to go up against. So kind of using a weapon almost handicaps me, to be honest. Like, I would rather not use the weapon, but for the sake of the other person I'm defending myself against, it's probably better that I use a gun or some other weapon. Basically what I'm trying to say here is that if I had my fists on here, like, they would just be so far above even S tier that it would just be incomprehensible to most people's minds. So starting off, we're going to go with a gun. Now, a gun is arguably the most effective weapon on here. There is nothing probably that is more effective than a gun. You point the gun at the person attacking you, you fire, they are dead. Or they're severely injured, right? So it's definitely what I would class as the most effective weapon here. However, I don't think it would be the most satisfying weapon here. There's not much enjoyment, I think, from just pointing and pressing a button. I don't think that's very satisfying. I don't think that's very enjoyable. And you could argue, well, you're not supposed to get enjoyment out of self-defense, but this is my self-defense tier list. So if you are going to argue that, shut up, go be a little wuss somewhere else and make your own self-defense tier list. Anyway, we're going to put gun in A tier because it's effective, but it's not quite exciting enough to go up in S tier. And that's where next we come to knife. And a knife, it's effective, but you have to get in it very close range. Also, there are lots of cases where people get stabbed multiple times before anything actually happens. Like, they might not even notice they got stabbed at first. Like, there's lots of reports of that sort of thing. They'll keep fighting for a little bit after the first stab. So the stab itself, as soon as you hit someone with that, they're not going to just stop instantly. You're going to, like, they could still do some damage to you. So it's not as effective as the gun, but it is also very deadly. Like, it is going to kill people. Like, they might not notice right away, they might keep fighting, but they're going to go down in the end. Now, in terms of satisfying to use, I feel like the knife is more involved, so you're going to have a bit more involvement there by the user. You're going to have a bit more skill here to get some use out of your knife. It's also a thing that if you, in the end, you come out victorious and you manage to successfully defend yourself using the knife, I think you'll feel better about yourself than you would have if you had used a gun. I think you'll feel more accomplished, like, yeah, I did that all by myself. Whereas a gun, it feels like a cheat code. A gun's like, well, I pointed this thing, like any idiot could have done that. A toddler could have won that engagement if it came down to it. Whereas a knife, I don't think, like, a toddler with a knife, are you really that much in trouble? Like, that's why I can't take, like, Chucky seriously in those movies. Like, it's a little doll with a knife. What the hell's that thing gonna do? I'll just stamp on its fucking head. Anyway, taking all things into account, I'm ranking knife alongside gun. Next up we have keys, and keys is immediately going in D tier. You see these things all the time, right? With people, these self-defense people, like, trying to teach women, if you're going to do something, put your keys, and I know this isn't a key, but it's like, put your keys between your fingers, and you'll see women walking at night if they're scared, and they do this thing. You see it in movies, you see it all the time, and these self-defense people telling women, put it in here, so if you have to punch your attacker or whatever, you can punch them and it'll do extra damage. What a lot of nonsense. Do me a favor and do that, right? Put those keys in your hand and go punch a wall or something. I promise you, it's going to be more unpleasant for you than it is the wall. The thing's going to... you're not going to hold that. It's not going to work. It genuinely is not going to work. It's absolute nonsense. The only luck you've got is if you manage to aim that thing, like, directly into someone's eye or something. Like, that is the only chance that's going to do you any favors. In fact, you'd probably do better just having a bare fist hitting them. You'd do more damage. The worst the key's going to do is give them a little scratch or a cut or something. At least your fist could knock them out. Next up, we have nunchucks, and I'm putting these in C, right? So the thing with nunchucks is, if you could effectively use these things, you would be an absolute fucking freak weirdo, amazing, like, hero. Like, it would look amazing probably if you successfully did that. You'd be out of some kung fu movie or something. The thing is, they're not practical at all, right? Like, nunchucks, Who is using these things? Like, if they're going to be effective, you have to have trained with these things to actually know how to use them properly. Like, some amateur, someone who's never used nunchucks, isn't going to be able to pick these things up and do any good with them. You're just going to be, like, you're going to look silly. You're going to look like an utter fool. You'd be better using your fists. Like, an utter fool is what you'd be. Even if you are someone who's trained using these things, it's just so much less effective than all these other weapons. Like, you need to have such a high skill level to use these things effectively, when you could just have a baseball bat that anyone could swing and be way more effective with. Like, the person who's never swung a baseball bat before is probably going to be as effective as the master is using the nunchucks, just swinging the baseball bat for the first time. Like, it's so ridiculous. And on that thought, we're going to rank the baseball bat now, and that's going to probably go, I'm going to put in B tier. The baseball bat is a solid weapon to defend yourself, I believe. It's, as I said, a beginner is going to have no problem with that. Anyone can pick up a baseball bat and swing it. It's going to do a lot of damage when you land. It's going to really hurt. The only problem I have with a baseball bat is if the person is really, really coming at you, you've got one swing. Once that swing hits, like the distance has been closed. Like, if someone's swinging a baseball bat at me, I don't know where I'm taking it. Maybe the arms or something. I'm trying to get in there, get in as close as possible. But as soon as that thing comes in and it hits against me, it is stuck to me. Like, I'm not letting go. Like, the distance has been closed now. You're not getting away to swing it again. So you've got one shot. And unlike a knife that's actually going to, once you stab them, okay, they might keep fighting a little bit, then they're going to go down. You hit them with a baseball bat. If they don't go down right away, they're not going down, okay? I think it is a good weapon for deterring people and for, like, scaring people off. Or if you can manage to somehow get a couple of swings in, then that's good. Or if you do get a good swing in and they go down in the first hit, or they back off rather than come in, I guess it depends on how good your attacker is. If someone is actually wanting to come and do you harm, one hit from the baseball bat is not going to deter them. It might deter people, for example, who break into your house to come and rob you, and they don't expect someone to be there, or they don't expect you to fight back, and as soon as you fight back, they're like, okay, maybe I've had enough, I'm going to back off. That's because those sort of people don't actually intend to do you harm. They're trying to do something else, and as soon as you fight back, they're going to stop. It's like a bully, it's like a bully in school, and they go and pick on some weak kid because they think, oh, they're not going to fight back. As soon as the weak kid turns around and punches them in the face, even if it's not a hard punch, if they fight back, the bully next time, they're going to go find an easier target. They don't want someone to fight back, and I feel like a baseball bat accomplishes that sort of same goal. It's going to fend off the people who are looking for a weak person to pick on. Next up, this is a bow and arrow. Bow and arrows are atrocious for self-defense. I'm putting that at C. More effective than the keys, I suppose. Immediately, like, how are you using this for self-defense? Who just has a bow and arrow lying around? Like, self-defense, it's not really self-defense if you're using a bow and arrow, I don't think, because people aren't just carrying those around. Like, people buy a gun for self-defense. They keep it. They know where it is, or they're maybe carrying it. They have a knife in their kitchen. Someone invades their home. They run to the kitchen and grab the knife. Or their baseball bat, similar thing. But who's just carrying around a bow and arrow? Who has a bow and arrow for self-defense? If you've got a bow and arrow for the means of self-defense, then you're a psychopath. You're not really using it for self-defense. You just want to shoot people. And at that point, it's not really self-defense. Like, if you've got enough time when someone breaks into your home to go run and grab a bow and arrow, and then get your arrows loaded, and you can stand there, and they've not closed the distance, and you can pull your arrow back. Like, that's not self-defense anymore. That's called target practice. Self-defense is about defending yourself, not going out looking for someone to shoot. Anyway, even if it was entirely for self-defense, I feel like it's very impractical. First off, very high skill level needed to, like, actually use this thing effectively. You can put one arrow on, and you need to have good aim. You need to know the technique. You need to be able to then shoot. You need to have a decent distance between you and whoever you want to shoot. You need to get a clear line of sight. And if you miss one arrow, then you're fucked, because no way you're getting another. Like, how many arrows are you really loosing before they get to you? It's just so ineffective. Like, we're not back in medieval times. You're not standing on the side of the walls of the castle shooting down at the invaders. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just regular self-defense. Someone in the street comes up to you, someone tries to invade your home. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. And so next up, we're going with a rock. A rock's a weird one. It's not as good as a baseball bat, but I would say it's infinitely better than a bow and arrow or nunchucks, if we're being honest. I'm going to put it in C because I don't think it's super effective. A rock will do you good if you can find one. I don't know where you're just finding a random rock for self-defense, though. Like, I don't think that's not self-defense, really. Like, who's finding a rock to defend themselves? That's really weird. But if you can find one, it's going to be better to use that than use your fist. You can probably do a bit more damage with that thing. If you get a good hit in with that, it's going to do you all right. Better than the nunchucks, more effective than the bow and arrow, for sure. Next up, we're going with a hammer. A hammer, I would say, is more effective. No. Is it more effective than I would say a hammer is more effective than a baseball bat, personally. I'm going to put it just above the baseball bat. There's not much in it. The difference is here, a baseball bat obviously has more reach. You can stay back a bit more, and so you've got a good swing. The problem, as I said earlier with the baseball bat, is if someone is really wanting to do you harm, you've got one swing, and then you're fucked. You cannot use that anymore because they've closed the distance. You might get one swing on them as they're coming in, and then that's it. The difference is with a hammer, because it's a shorter weapon, even if they do start to close the distance, you can get more hits in. Like, if someone comes up, closes the distance to you, you can still be swinging it after they've grabbed onto you. You could still be swinging that at the back of their head. You could still be hitting them at short distances with it. You could be using the back of it to, like, claw into them. There's a lot of stuff you could do at very close range with a hammer. You can also have a bit longer range when they're coming in and still swing at them. So you've got the both. Whereas the baseball bat, you've only got the long range. As soon as they're in close, you're not doing anything. You're not doing shit up close with a baseball bat. Whereas the hammer, you're getting more in there. So I would say the hammer is better. And I think it also has, I could be wrong. I would think a hit from a hammer is going to do more damage than the baseball bat as well. I think just because, I'm not saying you could hit harder necessarily, but because of the point of impact is smaller, I think it's going to be more deadly. If you hit someone in the head with a hammer, the point of impact is going to be all concentrated in one little, the tip of the hammer. It's going to be there, and it's more likely to probably put them down. Whereas the baseball bat, maybe you can hit harder in general, but it's going to be a more spread out, impact, if that makes sense. So it's going to be more spread out. So I would say the hammer has probably got, more of a one-shot potential, is what I'm trying to say. And which makes it better for self-defense, because self-defense is all about trying to get it over with as quickly as possible, is what I would say. Next up, we've got pepper spray. I think pepper spray is a pretty good one. I'd maybe rank it up here in B. I'm not sure it's as good as, a baseball. Actually, I would... Is it as good as a baseball bat? It's a hard one to say, right? If you can get the pepper spray out and you can actually spray it in someone's face, it's gonna give you plenty of time to get away. That is gonna do you wonders. That's gonna be absolutely fantastic. It's gonna destroy their face. You're not gonna have a fun time. I would argue, now that I think, it's definitely, I would say, more effective than a baseball bat. Maybe even more than a hammer. It depends what you're trying to do here, I suppose. If we're talking just purely self-defense, which means you're just trying to debilitate the other person, and then you want to get away, I think pepper spray is great, so long as you can get it out and spray it. And I would also argue that actually hitting someone with pepper spray might be easier than hitting them and getting a good hit with a baseball bat or the hammer. It's you're going to have an easier time spraying a mist at someone's face than you are trying to get the perfect hit with a hammer to the head or something, because they can cover up, whereas the mist, it's going to get through. You can't just do this. I mean, if you cover your face, they can't see you anymore, so you could just run away at that point as well. So I feel like it's a really effective weapon. It's not going to kill anyone. It's not going to really gravely harm them, but it's a very, very effective weapon. And then I'm assuming this is a taser, and for the same reason, I think taser might be I'm going to put taser in A tier. I think that's a absolutely fantastic weapon. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might even put... I feel like it would be very satisfying to spray someone. I'm putting pepper spray in A tier. Fuck it. Pepper spray's going in A tier. And I'm actually going to put the... Am I? I'm very tempted to put the taser in S tier. So the taser in S tier, I feel like it's such an effective weapon. You tase someone, they are going down. You're not killing them. It is the perfect self-defense thing. You're just putting them down. That is it. You're not killing anyone. You're not really harming them. You're just putting them down, and then you can get away. There's also, I feel like it would be very satisfying to tase someone. I feel like it would be satisfying to get your attacker with that. I just realized this tier list has become much more serious than I had anticipated. At the start, when I was going to record this, I was going to be like, yeah, I would really enjoy using this and that. But now I've gotten so into this. I've gotten so into this tier list. I'm trying to work out what actually is the effective weapon. This isn't funny at all. This isn't amusing. This is just very serious business, folks. So I hope that at least this is educational for you, since it's not amusing. Next up, we have a fire extinguisher. I would say a fire extinguisher is probably a C tier sort of thing. It might be better than nunchucks. I think a rock might be better than a fire extinguisher. I mean, first off, right, you need to. Who do most people just have fire extinguishers in the home? I don't think so. Not here anyway. If you can get a fire extinguisher, sure, it's going to be like you're going to get a decent hit in with that thing. But it's back to like the baseball bat conundrum where you're getting one hit and there's nothing else you're doing after that. You can spray your stuff at people, but it's not like a pepper spray where it's going to like completely debilitate them if you hit them with it. Yeah, I don't think the fire extinguisher is all that effective, if I'm being honest. Next up, we're going to go with a dog. Now, a dog is a very effective method of self-defense. I'm going to put it, to be honest, I might put it up in A tier. It's going to be one of those things. I'm going to put it above pepper spray. I'm going to put it at the top of A tier. A good dog, like a big dog that you've got at home, that's going to really mess with intruders. The only way that your intruders are not going to be intimidated is if they're coming in with a taser or they're coming in with a gun and they shoot the dog. That is the only way they're not going to be intimidated if you've got a dog. That's the only way they're winning that, because big dogs are going to absolutely maul people who are coming for you. They're going to defend you and they're going to do a lot of damage. Dogs are vicious things when they're defending what's theirs. And yeah, people think all the time, they're like, oh, I would take a dog, I could take this animal, No, you couldn't. Like, most people are not going to be able to fight off a dog, never mind a big dog. Like, most people cannot. Even trained fighters and stuff are going to struggle to fight off a big dog. I mean, they do so much damage. They are really effective when it comes to fighting and defending things. And people don't seem to really understand just how strong some of these animals are. That's why it's always funny to me when people say, oh yeah, I could take a tiger or a bear or something. It's like, what are you even talking about? You couldn't even take your neighbor's dog. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So next up, we're using this stick. There is a word for this, but I'm forgetting entirely what the word is. My mind has gone blank. As far as my opinion on it, I think it's probably, for the average person, it is less effective. It's probably like the top of C tier, if I'm being... Maybe? No, I'll put it in B. I'll put it in B. It's not as effective as a baseball bat. This is one of those things that you've got a very long reach, and it's very good if you are skilled with it. Kind of like the nunchucks, you'll be effective so long as you're skilled with it. But like, say this compared to a baseball bat for the average person is going to be way more effective because they know what they're doing, much easier to use, just more intuitive to pick up and swing. Whereas using one of these sticks, these canes, whatever, it's again, you're going to get probably one good hit in. It's more agile, it's a bit more effective in that way if you know what you're doing, but most people don't know what they're doing. Next we have this, it looks like a mallet. Or maybe it's a sledgehammer. I'm not sure. The picture's kind of cut off. I'm going to put it in B tier, assuming it is one of these things. I'm going to maybe even put it above base. Yeah, I'm going to put it above baseball bat. Or I'm saying it's on par with baseball bat. It's a mallet or a sledgehammer. I'm not sure. A sledgehammer is going to be pretty ineffective, to be honest. If it is a sledgehammer, I would actually put it below the baseball bat, because a sledgehammer is one of those things, again, just like the baseball bat, you've got one hit. Thing is, a sledgehammer is going to come a lot slower. It's going to be a way slower to hit someone, and you don't have the same reach on it as you do with the baseball bat. You have to be way more accurate too. So I wouldn't say that a sledgehammer is a great weapon for self-defense. I do think that if it's a mallet, though, you could do a little bit more damage. It's not going to be as good as the hammer because it's not going to be as strong, but it is going to be reasonably effective. Next, we have these Knuckle Dusters. Knuckle Dusters are probably a very effective weapon, to the point where I'd maybe put it at like the top of B tier. It could maybe even sneak into A tier. It could. It's so easy to land a shot. Like, you just need to put this thing on your hand, and suddenly your hand is actually a weapon. Like, it's actually a weapon now. You hit someone, you're not going to injure your hand the same way as you would with a bare hand. And you're going to do a lot of damage when you connect with someone. If you're going to hit someone in the face, you're going to do a lot of damage hitting with those things. This is what keys wish they could be. Like, when people say, oh, put the keys, they're thinking it's like Knuckle Dusters. No, it's not. And it's because you don't have you don't have the same structure, the same structural integrity to the keys as you have with these things. Anyway, yeah, Knuckle Dusters are very effective. Now, this looks like a baton or something. Or is it a cricket bat? I don't know. I'm going to put it in B tier because I'm assuming it is one of those sort of weapons. Going by that, I'm going to put it sort of around this same area. I'm putting that down because I think it might be a sledgehammer. But this, yeah, I'm going to put it probably around here. If it is like a baton, I would put it above the baseball bat, to be honest, just because of that range. You can get more hits in. To be honest, I might even put it above the hammer, because you can get a lot of little hits in with that thing. Assuming it is a baton. I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like it's one of those fold away things, like it's going to retract into itself. So I think it is a baton, like the police use. Right, next, I don't know what this is. What is that? Do you know what that is? I have no clue what this thing is. Is that... I don't get it. Is it like twisted in itself and then you... Is that like something like you restrain someone with, maybe? I don't know what this thing is next to that either. Like, what's that? Is that you're going to put it on your finger and then like hit someone with it? That looks kind of stupid. So yeah, this thing looks entirely ineffective. I'm not sure it's as bad as the keys, but it's certainly going down there. It doesn't look like it would be very much use, to be honest. And this thing doesn't look like it's very useful either. I don't know what it is. Like, I can't tell. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in D, but don't hold me to that because I don't actually know what it is. Anyway, this tier list took a bit of a strange turn. I did not expect to be ranking these so seriously. I did not expect to be so engaged with this. I thought I was going to just be making some dumb jokes. But I guess I took it very seriously, and so I hope that at least this has been educational for you, and that you people know like what's going to be effective. I guess if we're just talking pure effectiveness, the gun is probably like there's nothing's going to be a gun. A gun is still the most effective, but I'd say a taser is maybe like a close second to that. But if we're talking about actual self-defense, you don't want to kill anyone, you're just trying to defend yourself, then I think a taser is probably the best thing you could have. That, or then the dog. The dog is going to do you wonders. Anyway, freaks, if you would like to make your own self-defense tier list, I will leave a link to this tier list in the description down below for you to go and check out. And until next time, goodbye.